appearance as a cowboy. He wore blue dungarees, a checked shirt, and had a 10-gallon hat. He was our chauffeur. We went in a car driving from Los Alamos to what they called the Hill, which was about 30 miles away, and we had to do it by a slightly circuitous route because the bridge was out over the Rio Grande. And there ensued in this period, while the geography, the topography, if you like, was becoming more and more beautiful. There were canyons opening up. It was pine country. We were on a knife-edge road going to the top of a mesa. And there ensued a fantastic conversation between von Neumann and the cowboy. Well, it had to do with some difficulties they were encountering. What's going on? Well, the cowboy said, the trouble is the world lines are colliding. Well, that's relativistic terminology, and it sounded like something fantastic. And as the conversation proceeded, things got more and more fantastic. The cowboy explained, well, the trouble is that matter is being destroyed. And von Neumann remarked, well, that's all right, you just put in a source of matter. And what in the world was going on? Well, it took me some weeks to discover what had been going on. I was a stranger in the car, of course, and they were venturing to talk about some of the technical problems on the Hill, but wanted to do it in a sufficiently reserved way that no stranger would be able to penetrate security. So what they were in fact talking about was a mathematical model. And this cowboy was a mathematician who had worked previously with von Neumann. That was the sort of experience that one had occasionally at Los Alamos. And I was having it while being driven through this fantastic canyon country. I had never seen anything like it before, until we got up to the hill and had to stay in a log building which dated from the original ranch school that was there previously. Since all of the I's had already been dotted regarding security, I was able to find out what it was they were doing in an interview with Robert Bacher the next morning. And I was rather taken aback, I'd have to say, by learning what they were doing. The idea that it was a bomb really shook me up. I had taken it for granted by now, by that point, that they were working on atomic power of some sort, and had not the faintest awareness that they had already achieved that early it was in 1942. And I'll say a word or two about that. But here is that gentleman, Mr. Newman, who got off the train with me, and I was presently introduced to other people at Los Alamos. The next, of course, was Hans Bethe, who was head of the theory division, and I would have to say he was an extraordinary leader for that division, since he had a fantastic ability to do calculations and could reach orders of magnitude estimates of nearly anything, and the most outlandish sorts of things at that. So he, in fact, knew what everybody was doing, and oftentimes, a group of 30 or so people, oftentimes a great deal better than they knew it themselves. He was the first of the impressive people I met, and there were quite a few following that, but let me mention to you one mysterious figure, Oppenheimer. I had never heard of him. He was director of the project. This is his badge photo. This is what he looked like. usually, and often indoors as well as outdoors, wearing that pork pie hat and always smoking. Oppenheimer was an extraordinary man, and I guess I'll have a number of things to tell you about that. He was remarkably intelligent, immensely articulate, very well schooled in literature. He was not the greatest of lecturers. He didn't have real discipline as a lecturer, but he was always interesting to listen to, and he always expressed himself remarkably well. His pork pie hat was a virtual signature, and you could tell the presence of Oppenheimer even when you couldn't see him, when he was visiting the experimental areas, for example. He was extraordinarily well-versed in what everybody was doing, again, in the project. And there were very few people who had as broadly based a knowledge as he did about what was going on in every area. Here is another mysterious figure. Mysterious because when I looked around the theory division, I saw an office with no one in it and the name Edward Teller chalked on the door. Teller had in fact been there in the months earlier and had left in something of a huff, allegedly because he was not made director of the theory division, the position held by Hans Bethe. Within about a month, Teller reappeared. And when he reappeared, Oppenheimer gave him a division all his own to work on his special project, which was called the Super, or in his terms, the Super. It was the hydrogen bomb. He had lost interest in the fission weapon, which he considered a foregone conclusion. I'd have to say it wasn't to us. There were endless technical problems. Some of them looked simply insuperable. To Teller, that was a problem that was bound to be solved, and the real problem was a problem he was first introduced to in his studies of astrophysics, what it is that makes the stars shine, thermonuclear reactions. The force of gravity in stars produces enormous compression, and heat is retained till stars get very hot in the interior, hot enough so that nuclei colliding induce nuclear reactions. The collisions of hydrogen and deuterium, or between deuterium and deuterium nuclei, those produce power, and Teller was already an expert on the theory of those reactions. The problem was, how in the world